Mike Golic, co-host of Gojo and Golic on DraftKings Network, former defensive lineman. Look what you walked into.
I think it's harder to tap the same foot twice.
I agree.
Than to get 2 feet down. So, I mean, technically you should allow that because it is definitely harder to do. It was stunning to watch that, to see the left foot never hit the ground when it had room to hit the ground.
Yeah. But it says both feet, so that's where the language is there, and it's pretty simple, so no touchdown there. Okay. Who had a worse week, Anthony Richardson or the Bears defensive back, Tyreek Stevenson?
Well, I mean, Anthony Richardson has been having a rough year. So, I mean, it's kind of becoming a cumulative effect on what Shane Steichen is going to do. I'm actually calling that game, them in Minnesota, this Sunday night for Westwood One. And, you know, Shane Steichen certainly is not given a vote of confidence as Anthony Richardson as the starter, but that's been cumulative. The mistakes that were made in the Bears game, and not just Tyreek Stevenson. I mean, the optics were horrible of him, you know, getting on the crowd, but then to physically make the mistakes they made at the end of the play. You box out, you have a man and you box out, and you have somebody who's behind everybody else. That's a given. But it's like all is forgotten when the ball is in the air. Everybody jumps. There's supposed to be one jumper on the offense. It was Zach Ertz, and one jumper on the defense, and the rest are boxing out. The crazy thing is, Dan, on that is the pass rush. Now, normally you send 2 or 3 guys. They had a fourth. This is coaching, because I don't imagine TJ Edwards on his own said, I'm going to spy a quarterback 55 yards away from the end zone like he can affect the play if he runs. That was one of the most ridiculous optics things I've ever seen. He wasn't rushing. And I wish I could remember the team. There was another team that had a Hail Mary, and the opposing team rushed 4, but they overloaded the defensive left side, the offensive right side. So the quarterback couldn't roll right and make it an easier throw. They made the quarterback go left, so it's harder to build up to throw the long pass. To have a spy, that's coaching, because that player had to be told to do that. That was mind-boggling.
Yeah, I didn't understand it. You're in no man's land because he's not running. But you know, the play before that, Mike, where they just gave them a chance to be in Hail Mary range.
So this is a combination of, that's why it's tough to just point to one person, whether it's a player or a coach, and say bad play. I mean, this was players and coach. Bad execution on the jump ball, bad coaching on having a player spy for there's no need to spy, and having them play off that much and let them get into Hail Mary situation by giving up that much space. Normally you have guys shorter on the sidelines to protect the out of bounds, to not make it an easy pass, and guys deep. So there's a lot of look at Tyreek Stevenson is going to catch the brunt of this because of his antics before the play, but there's a whole lot of looking in the mirror to go around on that series.
Do you remember a player coming in the huddle and saying, I'm tired, I got to come out?
There has now, listen, when, and I don't want to make this generational, but we see kind of generational in basketball where load management has taken over. And I get it from the analytics and the trainers and that, where back again in my day, guys played 82 games, where it certainly can be done. I mean, nobody ever tapped out. No, I mean, it's almost a given if a player runs a deep route that they're off the field on the next play. And it's just kind of an understood thing. You just see more helmet tapping today in the college and pro game than you saw back in years past. That was a mistake. And you even heard Ryan Kelly, the center, kind of alluding to, he was talked to about it. It's not a good look, and it's not a good look at all.
Are the Steelers a threatening team?
I tell you what, Russell Wilson, there was a big question on would he recapture some of the Seattle days or would it be more of the Denver days? They scored 37 points against the Jets and 26, 28 against the Giants. So we know they can run the ball. Najee Harris had 3 straight games over 100 yards. We know they can play good defense, so they're giving up against the run a little bit on the Giants, but they can play good defense. And now they have a passing game, and they have a passing game that goes downfield. And I don't mean the Hail Marys that Russell throws and really kind of loops and gives your guy, a 60-40 chance rather than a 50-50 chance. He throws a nice deep ball. He's always been the best deep ball thrower in the league. So they have, because you're right, we keep asking who's the threat to Kansas City. Was it Baltimore? And they have a bad loss to Cleveland. Is it Buffalo? Still certainly could be Buffalo. Still certainly could be Baltimore. But you have to give Pittsburgh the benefit of the doubt of getting into the conversation.
Your NFL MVP halfway point is?
Wow. Boy, is it Josh Allen?
For me, it is.
I would have what's that?
For me, it is.
Yeah, I would, and I would have said if they had won the game, I would say Lamar Jackson again for a third. Because he was having a hell of a year. Derrick Henry's been a big help to that offense. That's helped Lamar as well. But that loss kind of hurt. I would say Josh Allen and or Lamar.
But it's interesting. I look at the odds. DraftKings has Mahomes as the second favorite. So Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are tied. And then it's Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's just Mahomes, the threat of Mahomes.
Yes.
Because he's got more interceptions than he does touchdowns. Nobody else has the threat like Patrick Mahomes does.
Without question. You say Pat Mahomes and you say, they have a chance.
Yeah.
Even though, remember, coming into the season, he was mad last season, even though they won the Super Bowl, because the offense was outplayed by the defense, and he didn't like that because this offense has been historic a couple years before that, and they just can't get back to that for whatever reason. Now, you have injuries this year with Pacheco at running back and obviously the receiver room, but the offense is still lagging behind the defense, and that doesn't make Mahomes happy, but it's Patrick Mahomes, so he can pull some miracle play.
Talking to Mike Golic, co-host of Gojo and Golic on DraftKings Network. When is it an appropriate time to talk about the Cowboys?
Well, I think it's always appropriate time to talk about the Cowboys. They're like the Yankees. They're like Notre Dame. It's like whether they're good or bad, they're always talked about. Listen, Dan, and I'm not the only one, but I can only speak for myself. I thought before the season that they were going to take a step back. They did nothing to help their running game, nothing at all. Their O-line became somewhat young with the center and left tackle. So I thought, who are they going to throw the ball to but CeeDee Lamb, who had a monster year last year? And their defense, they didn't do anything to help against the run. They're in a position now, then losing Lawrence and Parsons certainly hurt them, but they become in a position where they have to scheme to stop a run, whether it's run blitz, load the box, and they already load the box the third most in the league and still can't stop the run. So they have a personnel issue, which goes to Jerry Jones, which goes to Stephen Jones. So yeah, it's absolutely fine to talk about the Cowboys and the step back they've taken.
But if we know they're not going to be good, it's like the Jets. At what point are we just talking about the Jets because you're going to get clicks with Aaron Rodgers? We know they're not doing anything. It's been a debacle.
Quite honestly, it's a waste of time other than you're going to get clicks. But to talk about the Jets in any meaningful way or to talk about Dallas in any meaningful way, they'll have a game here or there, but they're not going to do anything. They're not going to be a threat. I know we're basically coming up to half the year, but they've shown nobody's walking in the door to help outside of a trade. You got Devontae Adams. That didn't help. Firing Robert Saleh didn't help. Changing the play caller didn't help. And the Cowboys just don't have the personnel to help. And no one's coming off the couch. Nobody's Joe Flaccoing this thing to save a season. It's just not going to happen.
I wonder, there's teams that need things at the trade deadline, but we tend to go, boy, that guy could be traded or that guy could be traded. and then they're not traded.
Right.
Do you see any name or names that you think will be traded?
Not any big names. We got, listen, you know this. You've been doing this longer than I've been doing this. Talking about the NFL trade deadline was a blip on the radar. You said, oh, here's the date, here's the time, and then wait for nothing to happen. But all of a sudden, 1 year, Christian McCaffrey gets traded, TJ Hawkinson gets traded, and they both are a huge input to their new teams, San Francisco and Minnesota, respectively. So all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, a guy can come in and kind of change the landscape a little bit. The big names talked about this year have been Max Crosby and Myles Garrett, right? Because Detroit needs a pass rusher. I thought they were going to go after Hassan Reddick, but the Jets, listen, the Jets already pushed all their chips to the middle of the table. They might as well continue to do it. But I thought the Jets were going to trade Hassan Reddick, and I thought Detroit would be a landing spot. But Max Crosby or Myles Garrett aren't going to get traded. You had the receivers that got traded in Cooper and Devontae Adams, which Cooper certainly can help in Buffalo. Like I said, the Jets are just are too far gone in this. So I think there'll be some minor trades like there have been, but I don't think any major names are going to go, especially on the defensive pass rush side.
Would you wear a Guardian helmet if you were playing?
I probably wouldn't, but I don't have a problem with guys that do. I'm amazed at some people that say, oh, this looks weird or looks dumb. So what? So what if a guy thinks that's going to protect him, and I know the information is still out there on just how much it protects. But if somebody wants to wear that for the physical protection and just the mental side of it of feeling better, so what? More power to them. I probably wouldn't, but if I had, documented a number of concussions, I think I maybe have had them, but they weren't documented. Again, don't know. Maybe if I had a number of them and more prevalent today than it was when I played, that maybe I would be more aware of it today and wear one. But I have zero issue with players wearing them.
We don't talk about linemen with concussions the way we do other positions. And linemen are engaged with every single play. Why is that?
There's a new helmet coming out. I think it's already out for linemen, which protrudes in the forehead area. And the talk of it being linemen, because linemen are in a hit every single play, but it's not a, for lack of a better term, a car wreck hit, like a DB or a linebacker, where there's space coming up, they're filling space on a wide receiver or a running back who got to the second or third level, and there's that major collision. Offensive, defensive linemen hit within 3 feet of one another, and then they'll use their hands more than their head. Their heads will still collide. And when you hit a running back on a running play, the running back normally isn't at full speed. So while there's actually continuously hitting the head of every play, it's not as speed-driven impact as the more space in between the hitters is.
What's that feeling like when you're under the pile and you can't get up? And you got 300-pound guys who are on top of you. Maybe you can't breathe. Maybe there's extracurriculars. Like, what's that feeling like?
Well, I was normally part of the extracurriculars of trying to get the ball, trying to bend some fingers or twist some hands. And I was normally one of those 300-pounders laying on somebody smaller, trying to take the air out of them, when you pushed up off of them, trying to have your forearm maybe push on their neck or their lower back. But that usually only happens in they scrum for the football. And if a small guy is caught on the bottom, that could be a problem. But for bigger guys, it's not really that big of an issue.
So there's no conversation that goes on?
I think my brother Bob, when he was a nose tackle in Cleveland, used to talk about a conversation he would have with Boomer Esiason when there were fumbles and they were in the bottom of a scrum. They would chat about something. I don't think they were often fond or good conversations. There were probably a lot of swear words involved. But yeah, there's some bad things that go on in those pileups.
Do you hold any grudges?
No. Oh no. I just like if there's a sideline blow up on the same team of players or coaches, I don't put anything in on game day. Because tensions are so high, emotions run so high.
But nobody cheap-shotted you that you still hold a grudge against them.
No. Kevin Gogan, we got in the fight. He was with the Cowboys. I was with the Eagles. He punched me he did a little 6-inch Mike Tyson jab on me in a fight that didn't get seen by the referees, and he exploded my lip. I mean, I had blood on the inside of my face mask on my face. I didn't even realize it till I got off the field. But hey, we were both squared off. It was fair. I mean, I wasn't a great player, Dan, so I was a line stepper at times. So I unfortunately fell into the cat. I never went after anybody's knees or anything like that. But no, I never, my fights were kind of straight up, squared up, face to face.
So if you saw Kevin Gogan, just, hey, how's the family? Everything's good?
Oh, yeah, I'd relive the day.
Plus,
I said,
he is
man, great.
6'7", 330, so.
I'd look up at him like I did on the field and say, dude, that was a great punch. He twisted my face mask and he caught me right in the chin. You got to give credit where credit's due.
Good to talk to you, Mike. My best to the family.
Too,
thanks for joining us. That's Mike Golic, co-host of Gojo and Golic on DraftKings Network. We'll take a break. Last call for phone calls. What we learned, what's in store tomorrow. Back after this.